Hello and welcome to another episode of Pi.
So this is Cass and Mel, and we, in this episode, visited a beautiful little town in Queensland, Australia, called Maryborough, which has a lot of historical history, as well as what we're interested in is ghost stories and ghost legends, as well as a couple of cold cases that we were interested in specifically. So this episode we take you through what we just scratched the surface of to do with those particular subjects, and we will now let you enjoy the episode and come back and give you a little summary at the end of what we found out after our visit.
Hello fellows, it's Cassie and me here at Maryborough, and we're filming in front of a water tower which is behind me, that a girl apparently committed suicide in a way back. We'll give you all the information. Cassie's got the information of when it all happened, haven't you, Cassie?
I do. So the poor soul's name was Molly Thompson. She was listed as a missing person in 1942, to be precise the 11th of August. And to this day, there's still a bit of a mystery around this because the coroner ruled it as suicide, but a lot of people questioned the fact that she was found 10 days later in this water tank face down. But the question remained around how did she get into the water tower, because there was a bit of controversy over the ladders. The ladder had been removed. If she needed to get herself up there, there needed to be a second ladder. And then people also flipped it the other way and said, well, if someone did carry her up there, how did they do that, carrying a body and getting up there? So there's still a bit of a mystery. The story background to do with Molly too is that she was 24 and she was desperately in love with a young man in town. He was from quite a well-known, well-to-do family. She fell pregnant. He obviously didn't want to marry her. There was also some kind of division to do with religion. So she was Catholic and he was Protestant, I think. So a lot of things going wrong for her. The last time anyone physically saw her was a street cleaner at 6 a.m. on the morning of the 11th of August 1942, and apparently she was wandering down one of these streets, and we'll put up a couple of photos in the video to show you. We don't know which way she came, but she came down one way of either of the main street, and she was apparently in her pyjamas and no shoes on. And like we said, she was found 10 days later, face down in this water tank. And some of the locals in the day said that it was kind of her way to get back at the town for how they had treated her, being pregnant and that type of thing. So she put herself into the water tank to make the local water not so good.
Yeah, apparently the locals did say there was a funny taste in the water because it took 10 days before they found her. So, and this was the main supply of water for Maryborough at the time. So anyway, I'll turn this around and you can have a look at what I mean, because okay, so this is the water tower, but as you can see, even back in those days, that's where the ladder starts, which is a fairly long way from the ground. So somehow she climbed up to that ladder and climbed to the top of the water tank. The which is way up there. But they said there was no ladder left on the ground anywhere around that she could have used to put up there to climb up onto that next flight of stairs that led up. So, and no one found a ladder. So no one knows how she got from the ground to there, all the way up there, and then decided to go and drown herself in the tower, in the water tank. So anyway, and that's been here. It's not used as a town's water supply anymore, as I've been told, but I think it might be because there's still water pumps out here. So anyway, and there's St Mary's College next door over the road, which has always been there as well. Hello, viewers. We're in our next spot at Maryborough, which is the Maryborough Cemetery, with the mausoleum part behind us. Anyway, so we're going to wander around here
and have a look. There was approximately, when the ships first started to arrive with immigrants, not convicts, immigrants to Maryborough, there was something like 22,000 immigrants coming off the ships here at Maryborough. And then they started to come into Sydney, Brisbane, and then they moved up to Rockhampton. But in the very, very early days, Maryborough was only second to Sydney as far as a port for the immigration ships to come in. And 22,000 people is just mind-boggling for those days when there was nothing here. Obviously then people travelled, like my family came into Rockhampton and then travelled inland to Cloncurry and that. So they didn't all just stay here in Maryborough, they dispersed and went down, up and inland. In the video we went to the water tower where we have spoken about Molly Thompson, who to this day is still a cold case. Even though the coroner declared it a suicide, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and from what we understand to this day, even though the coroner ruled suicide, the police still regard it as a cold case. So for some reason we were coming here anyway, but we got pulled to not necessarily stay at the tower, but try and find Molly here. So that's what we're going to attempt to do, or I'm going to attempt to do, is see if we can find Molly here. And there is another cold case, which is a bit of a mystery, and it was a husband and wife called William and Edith, I think it was, and William was a bank manager in town here, and they were horrifically murdered in their homes. William and Edith Moffat, so this was 1977. They lived in Jupiter Street, which is kind of at the back of where we've come from in Maryborough. The cemetery is more on the other side that we've come. So whether their murders had anything to do with him being a bank manager, whether he was into something underhanded, or people just thought because he was the bank manager they could get money out of him, we don't know. But to this day it was a pretty horrific murder. It's still a cold case. It's never ever been solved, and it happened in 1977. So we're going to see if we can find William and Edith Moffat as well. Alrighty, we're going to get busy.
Okay, stay hang with us. Okay, hello viewers. We're back in the cemetery when we were looking for Molly, and guess what? Cassie can tell you.
So I kept getting west, but I thought maybe it was west side of Maryborough, like the cemetery, not quite sure what it meant. And then just about to give up, because it's a huge cemetery, and started to walk towards the sun, which logically is sitting in the west. And as I looked up thinking, gee, that sun's strong, I've looked down and the grave right in front of me is Molly Thompson, the lady who we've explained in another part in this video, who was found 10 days after going missing in 1942 in the town water tank. And as we mentioned earlier, although the coroner classed it as a suicide, the actual police still have it as an open cold case because there was just so many questions around it. So the fact that I couldn't find my own family in another cemetery means to me that Molly really wanted to be found. So whether she comes through strongly or not, we're not 100% sure, but we know she definitely wanted us to find her grave because, like we said, it is a massive cemetery. It goes all over another side here and all over the other side of the road. So let's see what we can do.
I've got the K2 meter going here to see if we get any responses on that. I've got my BP voice recorder here, which I'll turn on, and Cassie can ask her some questions and we can see if we get any answers through that. I'll just leave that over there. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay. That's recording. Okay.
So as always, we come in peace, love and respect. We aren't here to disrespect anyone or the actual cemetery itself. We're actually here to communicate to anyone that would like to talk to us, but more importantly Molly, if she would like to come through and talk to us and give us any signs, any communication, firstly to let us know that you can hear us or see us.
If you can hear us, you can speak into the device sitting on the ledge here beside me, which will pick up your voice. And if you want to use your energy, and you can touch the K2 meter and you can get a reading on the K2 meter, and we'll let us know that someone is around. And Cassie's also got her divining rods here, so we can also try those and see if we can get some answers through those. And okay, Cassie's going to do a divining rod session now to see if we can get some answers on the divining rods or dowsing rods. So Cassie can, I'll put more on to Cassie so you can see what she's doing. Okay.
So what I might do is get you to ask some questions first.
Alright.
So with my rods, and people do it whichever way they want to, like some people, if it crosses over is a no, and if it goes wide is a yes. Some of us do it the opposite way round. So to me, I use it as if it crosses over, that's a yes, and if it goes wide, that's a no. But it's entirely up to what the person using them feels comfortable with. All right, so we'll just let them settle a bit. There is a tower. Would that interfere with that?
Shouldn't be. True energy.
Okay. We've just got an enormous big electric tower. So we just don't want to make that interfere. Right, so I'll get you to, we'll just get them to settle forwards if they will. They are actually spinning quite a bit. They don't want to settle.
Alright.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Molly.
Okay.
All right. to ask a question.
So is Molly or Molly's mother here with us now at the cemetery?
That would be a yes.
Yes.
I'll just bring them back to settle. Right.
And probably the biggest question everyone would probably like to know is, are you and your mother happy on where you are at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And was your death an accident?
It's a yes.
That's a yes. So no one.
Hang on. Just let them settle again.
So no one assisted you in the way that you passed?
Yes.
That's a yes. So someone did assist you.
Okay.
So it might have been an accident, but
Right, let's ask that again.
yeah.
Right.
Okay. So was your passing in the water tower an accident?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So that
I'm going to ask one now. So, Molly, did you mean for your passing to happen? Yes.
were you provoked into doing what you did by some other parties? Yep.
Yeah. So, Molly, was it to do with the young man that you were involved in at the time? Yes.
And is there four of us sitting here talking to you in the cemetery? No.
No. So that just proves
That just proves it. You have to ask some yes and no questions.
every so
Every
often.
so often.
So, Molly, were you 50 when you passed?
No?
So that would be a no.
Molly, were you with child when you passed? Were you pregnant?
Yes. Yeah, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure they said she was
Pregnant.
having a puppy. All right. So, Molly, when you say, I said Molly.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Molly, for acknowledging me. So, Molly, when you say it was an accident but you were helped, is that because, so that's a yes again. Okay, I don't quite understand that. How it was an accident but you were helped. Okay. So, let go in the centre.
Did you have help to get up to the top of the water tower?
Yes. Because that is the mystery, Molly.
Mm. And I'm sure we're not going to find out who helped you because that's, what, 1942?
1942. So, Molly, thank you for speaking to us.
Mm.
Could you tell us, is the person that helped you the man that you were involved with? Ooh, that was a definite yes.
Mm.
Oh. So, just a bit confusing, Molly, where it was an accident, but you had help. Does that mean you were just wanting to get attention in the right way, like to get help because she was so mentally distraught? Oh, that's a no. Okay. I don't quite understand that.
Well, you can only ask the questions.
All right. So, Molly, is there more? Is it yes or no? So, is there more to the story than what people know? That's why it's a mystery. Or is what everyone knows? Yes. So, there's more to it.
Okay. So is the person who helped you still alive on this planet, or yes?
Yes. Okay.
Mm. Would you like to see justice done for you against the person who helped you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's still classed as an ongoing cold case. So yes, yes.
Yes.
So hopefully someone will pick it back up, and if the person is still alive, well, maybe they can
Yeah.
brought to justice.
Mm.
But
So, one last question, Molly. Was the doctor involved at all? Yes.
mm,
All right. I think that's enough.
okay,
All right. Thank you, Molly, for that. Oh,
so we're going to wrap it up here now. Listen back with the EVP. I didn't hear anything, but I'll go back and put it in the headphones and have a really close listen. If I find anything, I can put it up as a little extra bit. And we're going to travel off to our next exciting spot.
there's a very significant house in Maryborough called Bedeau House. And while we were in the cemetery, we actually stumbled across the gentleman that built Bedeau House back in 1883. And there's a bit of a ghost story attached to Edgar and his wife Maria. They built the home. They had a son called Harry, or sometimes he was known as Henry, and he married a Indigenous lady called Lappy Tanner, who then obviously became Lappy Aldridge. So the house Bedeau went to the son Harry when Edgar passed and Maria passed, and they had a daughter, Essie Aldridge, also known as Edna Aldridge. And it's said that when the bank repossessed the house off Henry and Lappy, the daughter Essie cried and sobbed so much that she walked up and wiped her tears on the wall of the home as she was being dragged from the premises. And that happened in 1912, that the bank foreclosed on the house Bordeaux. So we ended up going to the Sydney Hotel, which we're going to tap on a little bit later, and a couple of the local barmaids there told us an interesting story when we asked them about the Bordeaux house, and they said that especially when it was a wedding reception and service house, that often wedding photos would be taken where the bridal party would stand in front of the house, or whatever the event was at the Bordeaux house, and in the photos when they were developed there would be figures up in the window, and both these barmaids, interesting, were young as well as probably our age, so they'd all heard the story, which was very interesting. After we left the cemetery and went back to the motel for a little bit of a fresh up, we called in for a bite to eat at the Sydney Hotel in Maryborough, which was built originally in 1865 but deemed as unfit in 1917. It was rebuilt and finished 1919. We talked to some staff, as we mentioned earlier in the video, and they gave us a little bit of insight about ghost stories around town. And when we asked about the Sydney Hotel itself, they said they definitely don't venture upstairs of the night, or if they can avoid it at any time, and in particular downstairs as well. They've had cups and saucers fly off the coffee machine, they've had glasses fly off the wall, they've had lots of things that I felt that one of the younger ladies didn't even kind of want to mention because it was a bit spooky for her to talk about. So after a great meal at the Sydney Hotel, we went for a little walk around the actual streets and taking some shots of the beautiful old heritage buildings in Maryborough central town itself. The buildings just ooze of history, but you felt like someone was watching you in every building looking out the window. So it definitely has a feel about it, and being one of the most haunted places in Australia, it definitely has that feel. The next day we ended up in one of the historic heritage listed street in Maryborough, which holds the Bond Store and the Military Museum, just to mention a few of the historic buildings. So we went into the Bond Store in particular to have a look around. So the Bond Store is pretty much like a customs house, which most towns have or had back in the day. And that's where, when the ships came in, everything went in, and obviously tax was paid on things like tobacco, opium, which to our shock was legal in those days, wine, rum, anything like that for people to pay tax on. We happened to bump into a lady, which was absolute synchronicity at its best, that we had seen on a YouTube video regarding ghost tours. And it happens to be that the beautiful Taylor is her name, works for the government or council, whoever it is that takes care of those buildings, and they swap between all the heritage buildings. That's what their job is, welcoming tourists and giving information and just keeping everything up to date. So Taylor gave us some great insight. Not only were we excited to actually meet her because we had seen her on YouTube, but just the insight she gave us into the history of the buildings and that. A couple of things to mention. We had been the day before to the Story Bank, which is the building dedicated to the interactive story of the author P.L. Travers, and she wrote the fabulous Mary Poppins story as well as a lot of other character books. The building has rumours of being haunted. When we went through it, it was amazingly interactive. It was wonderful. Didn't feel anything in the entire building until we got to the second floor, very back room. And it was interesting when we were talking to Taylor, who does the ghost tours and works in these historic buildings. As I said, intuitive herself. She mentioned that the only room she ever feels anything in is the top back room. And from memory, I think it's actually P.L. Travers' bedroom when she was older. So speaking to Taylor was absolutely amazing. There were so many things in the Bond store that she told us where they've held ghost tours. The staff themselves during the day have funny things happen, and a little bit of eeriness about downstairs. Herself doesn't like to venture down underneath the Bond store itself. I don't know quite what's underneath there, whether it's storage. They've had ghost tours where there's been up to 20 odd mediums and psychics in the group, and had a lot of interesting stories to tell us. So the other really amazing story she pointed out is across the road in the same street is the old Criteria Hotel, and she said they've actually encountered a lot of ghosts over there. Interesting enough, specifically children that would come through and talk about wanting toys to play with. And what they found was eventually the children spirit actually came over into the Bond store and they haven't quite left. So very intriguing stories. We're actually going to go up and do a ghost tour with Taylor ourselves, but if you'd like to know more about her and her ghost tours, just venture on to YouTube and Google Ghost Tours Maryborough. So our last port of call for the day was the Maryborough Historical Military Museum, and again this is an amazing place. We've been to the War Memorial in Canberra, and yes, it's beautiful and it's well done, very elegant, whereas the Maryborough Historical Military Museum has some of the largest collections and exclusive collections of, for example, the Gallipoli medals and memorabilia from that era. So not only was it absolutely amazing, but one of the reasons we went there is we had seen other ghost hunters go there and do some sessions. So we wanted to look at a few things in particular in their sessions although we weren't doing a nighttime by ourselves investigation, we just wanted to look at what they had picked up in their videos. One was a flag on a wall, which apparently during the day and night investigations, the flag would lift itself off the wall. We kind of came to the conclusion that that could happen due to air conditioning and things like that. One thing as well was there was supposedly a rack of uniforms that people would sometimes in photos have orbs over them. Unfortunately, we couldn't either confirm or debunk that for the fact that the rack didn't exist anymore. So when we did first arrive at the museum, we were greeted by a gentleman who gave us a rundown of the history, etc. When he'd finished talking, I mentioned to Malcolm that I wonder if there was anything on Major Glasgow, who my family had a connection with. And we kind of said we don't think it would be because it was, away from Brisbane and nowhere near where we grew up and that. So we walked around the museum taking photos, etc. And then lo and behold, Malcolm called me over and said, look who I found. And it was actually the Major Glasgow. So I think his name is William Glasgow. So I do need to give you a little bit of a background story as to why this last photo in this video has kind of puzzled us. So the story, why I remember Major Glasgow so well, is his nephew's sister was my grandmother's best friend, and she died. And the story had always been told that the following Christmas after her death, when all the Glasgows got together, Dorrie appeared in the back of the photo, and she had been passed away for more than a year. So that was always something rock solid in our family as a story told. So when Malcolm grabbed me and said, look who I found in the military museum, there were photos of Major Glasgow, etc., etc. So we took some photos for the fact that I thought I wanted to dig into the history a bit more. And then when we were driving home and I went back and looked at those photos, there seems to be what you could call is an orb in the last photo. Now, we went back to the other photos, we looked at the lighting, we kind of analysed where my head was. I had to lean over the cabinet, so I would have blocked any lighting out to take the photo, and there was no flash used. If that light was a light, then why didn't it come up on the other photos? And it's just ironic that it's turned up on a photo that I have a connection with the family, of a story of something appearing in a photo. So we want you guys to have a look at it. Tell us what you think it is. If you can debunk it, that's great. Taylor, that we mentioned, who is with the historical buildings up there, she also works to and fro from those heritage buildings, so she has things to do with the military museum as well. So I'm actually going to send her a copy of it, and I'm going to see if she can go up, take the same photo, and just try and debunk if it is lighting or anything like that. And we will maybe keep you posted in the next few episodes as to what the outcome of that picture investigation is. But it's a bit of a mystery because, as we said, for us, unless Taylor can debunk it for us, or we go up and have a look at it again ourselves on another trip to Maryborough, it's a bit baffling to us, and we just think the connection to something turning up in a photo to do with the family story is just a little bit too coincidental. Hi everyone, so we thought we'd just do a little summary of our recent visit to Maryborough, Queensland. It was quite fascinating. The heritage buildings up there is just unbelievable. Maryborough seems to have a bad rap. You're always seeing it on the news and that for crime. We understand that, and we understand there's crime everywhere, but it really is worth a visit. The people up there are lovely. The locals are just incredible. It's a pretty little town down by the river. The gardens and that are just absolutely beautiful. The investigation we did, like we said, we just scratched the surface. We're going to go back up there again. The photo that we mentioned at the end of the video is still puzzling us.
It is
a little bit.
Is what it is.
So we'll look into that a bit further and give you an update. We will mention, and that's part of doing the summary, we found out a little bit more information in particular about the cold cases. So Molly Thompson, when we investigated a little bit further after coming home, the coroner's report actually didn't say suicide. It actually said no suspicious circumstances. So that, in the world of cold case detectiving, whatever you want to call it, that usually means that from what they could see, there were no suspicious circumstances, so nobody else was involved as far as they could see. We did wonder, however, because as we mentioned in the video earlier, there was a great division all over the world, we know at those times, regarding Catholic and other religions, and that was part of Molly's story, that she was Catholic and the young man was Protestant. That's what made us look into it, because of the fact that she was still buried in a normal cemetery with her mum, and usually in those times in particular and beforehand, if you were Catholic and you died from your own hand, that was against the church, and you generally weren't buried in the same cemetery. You were put in a different section, and a lot of times you very sadly had an unmarked grave. So we think the way that the coroner worded it, no suspicious circumstances, allowed her to be buried.
But still being a cold case, that means I think the police are still open to trying to find out how Molly got up there in the first place. That's the big sticking point, is how she could manage to climb that fire escape or ladders, whatever, to get up there. So anyway.
And some of the answers we got using the divining rods, I was happy with all of that except one, which was where we got,
was she assisted or not?
Was she assisted? Was it an accident? We got, yes. It was an accident. Did someone help you? Yes, they did. So it was like, it was an accident, but somebody helped me. So I found that very confusing. So we'll sit on that and see if anything else comes. We did mention also in the video that we were tracking down, or trying to track down,
the Moffats.
The Moffats.
But unfortunately they don't come up in Maryborough as being buried. They're buried in their hometowns
up north, where Edith was
originated
from.
We won't be going there to track them down, but the cold case is still open on them as well. So if we find out anything more, we'll let you know. But other than that, it's great. Maryborough, I think just about every historical house in town is haunted.
Would have to be.
What we found out about. Everyone's got a ghost story about whatever building they've worked in, been in, are in, and so
very interesting.
It's definitely a place we're going to go back to, and like we said, we're going to go on the ghost tour with the young lady we met with, Taylor, and that'll be another episode that we'll put up after we do that. And if you want the best palming I've ever had in my life was at the Hotel Sydney, the Sydney Hotel. It was huge.
And it was only $20, and for these days, that's incredible.
I've had a lot of palmies in my time, and that's probably the best one I've ever had.
It was excellent.
So anyway, just a little note there for connoisseurs.
So sometimes too, we tend to go, or think we've got to go a long way to discover or see things.
No.
But sometimes they're in virtually your own backyard. So it's only an hour and 40 odd minutes from Sunshine Coast. And like I said, a pretty little town, the parks, the river.
And the heritage. It outstrips a lot of places we've even been to down south that we've travelled to. That in Brisbane, they just pull down everything. So there's not a lot of heritage. It outstrips nearly every place I've seen for heritage and keeping their buildings. And
definitely. And we're going to, when we do head back up there, we're going to do the ghost tour with Taylor. Like we said, that we met up there, which we think was a huge synchronicity. So we'll keep you posted. That's probably, she did say they usually run them in winter, so May or June. So we'll keep you posted and let you know when we're up there, and we're back investigating in Maryborough and doing the ghost tour.
Yep. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you for the next one.
Bye.
Bye.